What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to Tour Life. Today is Tuesday, March 17th, and we got an awesome show for you guys tonight. We will be having the tournament director of the last event with lots of stuff going down. Jeff Spring will be joining us here shortly. And then we have the one that was involved with all the chaos as well and ended up winning the tournament. Gannon will be joining the show as well to hear all about the controversy that went down, all the drama that went down. Very interested. And I've joined here, as always, with Gary. Yuli is a little bit under the weather, so we'll just be me and Gary tonight, but we do have a good show for you guys. Gary, how's it going, brother?
It's going pretty well. Super windy here last night. I came home from the gym last night to find a power line down that running down the lane to our house. So that's been great. It's stopping me from using one of my cars, but you know.
It's I think it's been windy all over the place. It was very windy for the Players Championship that went down in Florida this past weekend. It was so windy here in Dallas that the Ironman that was going on, they ended up having to cancel the swimming portion for all the amateurs because the current was so strong that they felt that they weren't going swimmers weren't going to be able to make it back to the beach. Wow. Like the current was going to continue to pull people away, which would have been an absolute nightmare. I mean, they already have to kind of save some people out there in the open water. And the idea of just having a bunch of people not being able to swim strong enough to get back to the beach, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. But big show, man. You know, I think going into this tournament, a lot of us were going to talk about the course, right? Like that was going to be the main takeaway. Was how would this course stack up, the tee pads. There was a lot of stuff going into it that people were talking about. And we're walking away with some stuff that I don't think we saw coming. And I think this is going to be very interesting. I'm very curious to ask some of these questions to Jeff because I will push back on the idea and the notion that like disc golf as a sport is young. I don't think necessarily disc golf as a sport is young. But disc golf as a professional sport where it's kind of like put together the way it is young. And I still think we are seeing some of that immaturity in events like we saw this past weekend.
For sure, especially like as we continue to evolve with the way we do our rules and everything. It felt like so many things came together to create a firestorm of problems where a number of people were talking about how the first few rounds felt kind of meh. But I saw a couple people saying that they literally subscribed to DGN just to watch the final round because of what it went down. So,
yeah, no, I think it was a combo of two things, right? You had the drama of like outside the actual disc golf that we'll discuss at hand tonight, but there was also really good disc golf being played in really hard conditions. And it was very, very fascinating. It obviously ended up being kind of a two-headed monster battle there between Ricky and Gannon. Isaac kind of had some struggles. Luke Taylor just couldn't make anything outside the circle. So it was really just those two guys battling. But they were playing some good disc golf down the stretch. And we were seeing how what I would love to see more of. Now, I'm not saying every course needs to be like this by any means. So we're going to talk maybe more about the course later. But I did like seeing a change of pace. We had to see guys get creative. We had to see guys chip shots to like landing zones to then maybe try to attack. And the one thing that and I'm curious to see what Gann has to say about this. Watching the final round, Isaac was really the only one I saw attempting like rollers. And they didn't end up working out that well. And you heard, if you watch Jomez, Big Germ, and Yuli, both were kind of talking about how thick the grass was, how the mounding and all this, it really didn't lead to throwing rollers. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't like seeing rollers in the woods of where people are just trying to throw something and have it roll as far as possible. So I don't know. I thought it was a good change of pace.
It kind of felt there for a little bit like it was almost just advance any way possible and figure out what happens from there. Like they were even talking about how Brian was mentioning they couldn't really use their like the teleprompter thing where they can scribble on the screen. They couldn't really use that because he's like, I don't know where the best spots to be were. And even if I was right, 2 feet left was problematic and 2 feet right was probably. So he's like, there's almost no reason to write to show people like where you wanted to land because it was just so you had to be super creative everywhere you went.
Yeah, I think that was the big issue from a spectator watching.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was, and maybe some of you guys sound off in the chat. Thanks for listening tonight, everyone live in the chat. If you were there, let us know how it played out for you guys live. But being a spectator, one that hasn't actually played the course, because I think what I'm seeing now, being off tour and watching courses for the first time,
Mhm.
it's hard to familiarize yourself with what's going on. It's
Yeah.
and maybe I glossed over that a little bit on this podcast in the past of where I would play the course. And so when I would watch it, I knew when it was a good shot and a bad shot. And a course like this, it's very difficult for me to know where they're trying to land,
Mhm.
what they're going to have in front of them. Whereas, go to some of the other wooded courses that we have, it's a lot of them have a very defined fairway, and if they're off the fairway or not. Where
Mhm.
here, it wasn't the case, but I think they're going to get it figuring it out. And I really liked a lot of the stuff I was hearing from John
Yeah.
Houck after the fact. So I have high hopes for this
Mhm.
course. And I think it honestly played decently. I think there was maybe a couple holes that
Yeah.
ended up maybe being a little bit too hard. But like I said, we'll discuss that more in advance. All right. So I think Jeff Springs should be joining us here shortly.
One of the
Uh,
one of
Go
the
ahead,
things I
Greg.
like real quick is that despite whatever the course did, the atmosphere was great. A lot of the pros that we talked to said that the people of the area, they really showed up and got super excited about everything. So like that's a good thing to hear when it comes to this is a new tour stop. Did people show up and actually like want to spectate this event? So, I'll call that a win, and the course definitely could use a little more work for preview for
We
future
have
years.
we have Catterley here in the chat saying, as a spectator, I enjoyed what I saw, though I think what really helped me was the several days before of practice rounds I watched
Mm,
of players. With those videos, yeah, and it is one of those things like the practice round videos, they do a decent job of like actually showcasing the holes a little bit better than
yeah.
you just get the flyover at the beginning. I think something that the Disc Golf Pro Tour could incorporate in the future is don't always just show the flyover before the shot.
Yeah.
Sometimes show the flyover when they're throwing their second shot. Like have a reminder of us
Mhm.
of seeing it. And for the love of God, just do not switch to catch cam.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that
tough. It's
on
tough.
I
We're
will
not
say
familiar with the course. Like, don't do it to us.
I will say that not being familiar with the course, it was when it switches to catch cam, I have no idea what's happening, and I'm just at a loss. I'm just kind of waiting for the disc to get somewhere near the basket. So, all
Yeah.
right, let's bring him on here. Jeff Spring from the airport.
From the
Jeff,
airport.
Jeff, thanks so much for jumping on. We appreciate it. I know there is a lot to talk about, so we'll try to make it quick to get you out of here. So you can catch. Are you catching a flight tonight, or trying to catch a flight out?
Trying to get back home to Vermont and the
Okay.
wife and kid. Yeah.
Okay. So we won't keep you too long, but we do appreciate you hopping on because this past week we did see a lot of crazy stuff kind of go down. I guess first, kind of walk us through behind the scenes, if you will, from the beginning to the end of the whole Ricky Wysocki and Gannon coming up and talking to you about him moving the limbs and sticks and really the big discussion before the playoff.
Yeah, that's hole 16. Ricky's drive landed right side, and he used a time extension. He had cleared some debris before the kind of move in question. And I was watching, and, the players were to the left. It was like Gannon, Luke, and then Isaac. And, I saw him grab a stick behind his lie, and he realized that it was extending in front of his lie, and he moved. That's when he made the move around to grab the pile of debris. I would say this: it happened pretty quick, and I think in retrospect, and I think Rick spoke to this, the move there is to call, and this is for any disc golfer playing in tournaments, call your card over. Let us look at it as a group. So what I would clarify here is that there was a branch that extended behind his lie. I know that I saw that, but then when he grabbed the pile of debris, it was really unclear if this is a connected pile in real time. I would say, and he cleared it and then threw his shot. And I looked over and Gannon and I think we're on the same page. He kind of came with the same thing that he's been saying, which is, was that in front of his lie? It was unclear. I did say to Luke and Isaac, wanted to get their opinion, but there wasn't clarity that there was a full, like, hey, is this fully disconnected? And what was Rink thinking there? So, there was a brief discussion, and, I told the card, since Isaac had to throw his shot, 100 feet away. So we said, like, listen, let's have a discussion at the next tee. And then I think most people heard that discussion.
So you did bring it up to Ricky right then and there about Gannon questioning it, and then it wasn't. He knew right then that there was going to be a further discussion, because it looked like, from a lot of people, it looked like Gannon came to you, said something, and then nothing was said to Ricky until the next tee, which was someone, some people have been pulling up timestamps 12 minutes later.
No, that's correct. Nothing was said to Ricky until the next tee. When he was in the process of doing that, I checked with the decision.
I guess what was the decision? Real quick, what was the decision there? Not to, when Gannon brought it up, not to immediately go to Ricky right then and say something. Just pace of play. You just want the other guys to play it out.
I think there was I felt like I actually turned and brought it up to the group because I was unsure.
Okay.
And Isaac had to go throw his shot, and he was kind of already moving. At that point, the uncertainty of making the call, I wanted to get the group decision. And in retrospect, maybe we should have had a big conversation right then. And I think that the fact that we did it at the point that we're scoring the hole is okay. Would have been better earlier. I could probably, agree to that. So
what are your thoughts on the actual rules? Because, going back and looking at it, I wasn't, I haven't gone into the rule book because I wasn't planning on playing it all this year. So I don't need to know the rules. But one thing that I thought was for sure a rule, and maybe something I have been breaking in the past, was I always just thought anything behind your lie, and we'll use the terminology that used to be used, dead and unattached, could be removed. So I remember playing and having like a limb or a branch that's like stuck up into a tree that's dead and unattached, in the sense that it's not attached to the tree. And I have removed that. But now in the rules that states, it looks like it has to actually be on the playing surface. Do you know if that is a new rule, that anything that's not on the playing surface cannot be removed? Is that something that's been now changed to that? Because I don't remember the wording of it being that way. Oh, we might have lost him.
Oh no. He looks so serious.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if he. We'll see. Mike, maybe you can try to get him back in. Going back to that, Gary. Those are two things that I thought was very interesting. Is it has to be on the playing surface, and then on top of that, the other thing that's very interesting too is they took something that I think the majority of us can understand: dead and unattached. There's not really too much ambiguity on what that means. And now they've turned it into an item we got Jeff back. All right, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, you're back. Were you able to hear what the question was?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what's going on here in the airport, so apologies.
It's okay.
But
no worries.
Yeah, the rule has been updated. Dead and unattached has kind of been replaced by loose debris, and it does stipulate that it needs to be, in contact with the ground, I believe. So,
do you like that rule change? Because to me, dead and unattached, I think everyone can say that's dead, that's not attached. I think now And we can even go back earlier to on hole 12, Ricky was talking about trying to break a limb off of a dead tree, basically, that was behind him, that was in his way. And the ruling there was you're not able to move this because of it wasn't small enough.
It says small unconnected branches is what the rule says now.
Yeah. The rule says you have to be able to move it on your own, hence loose debris. You can't get a team of people. There's actually
if I could have just grabbed that and just pushed it aside in 2 seconds, I would have been okay. But Ricky can't do that.
I think so. I mean, in that case, on that hole, that was a large down tree.
Yeah.
This actually stems back to, I think, 2021 Pro Worlds, and Macbeth had moved a log that was intentionally placed, and they wanted to get language in that says, hey, if there is an intentionally placed like object that's big enough that you can't so that's where the loose debris, I think, came from. But in terms of like breaking a branch off something you can't move, I ruled there, hey, Rick, can't move it. I
just feel like the PGA adds some things sometimes to make it very ambiguous, like the ambiguity. Look, Gary, give me that word.
Ambiguity.
Thank you. They're adding it to where someone like myself, I might look at a branch and go, that's a small branch. And Paul Kranz might look at that branch and go, that's a big branch. And I'm able to move it, and Paul Kranz isn't. Like, I don't know why they added like these stipulations of like small. Like, I just don't get why if I can move something that's behind my lie.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a ruling that the PGA needs to look at to kind of make sure that these things don't happen in the future?
Well, what I would say is that it's tough to characterize intentionally placed objects.
Yes.
And I think that the intent of like the larger objects is, let's not slow down the round, and let's not get, a team of people moving something. If it's there, if it's part of nature that you're not going to be easily moving, you probably should leave it there. But there is ambiguity there. I think that there can be work, and the RRAC team, Rules Regulations and Competition Rules Regulation Committee, is working hard. I think they take good feedback, and the less ambiguity, the better, for sure. And in this case, even the rule doesn't necessarily say if it's behind your lie and extends in front of it. There's not a lot of clarity there. You do have to go to kind of the question and answer section of the rule book to say, okay, well, if it's behind my lie and it extends in front of it, then I can move it. And in this case, on the Ricky ruling, it was unclear how connected that pile was in real time, which is where, I think the group basically ended up saying, like, listen, that happened quick. Really, he should have, called people over. And I think he's acknowledged that. And on replay, looking at it, I think there are things that are unconnected, and, who knows if they extended behind the lie. So, that's another ambiguity in the rules, because, what happens when the group doesn't really have enough time to rule, and maybe something did happen that went against, the rules of the game. So, I think, Ricky zoned in, maybe, hey, we're going to learn from it, make a quicker call. In that situation, I think that since it was less than definitive in the moment, and we can't use replay yet, which I think we're working on. Hopefully next year we'll be able to incorporate something there. It's in that big spot, it's hard to add a stroke, when it's not crystal clear. So, I think we've seen officials inserting themselves. Like, we know, most recently Champions Cup, making a call out of left field, and how that was taken. I think my thought was, hey, the group should weigh in here. And I think everybody was at peace with the decision that was competing.
Now, real quick, Gary, real quick.
Yeah.
Hypothetical here. When Isaac said, I don't know, I didn't see it, could Ricky then call a courtesy violation on Isaac for not watching? And then would that have gotten upheld?
It would have been a courtesy warning, and
warning?
Technically, I think that it should have been a courtesy warning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
My question is the group conversation, because that's where there's like almost a weird gray area there for me as well, because the new rules talk about how players aren't allowed to basically petition other players during group conversations. And the question was asked of Ricky about it, and he kind of explained, "Yep, this was behind my lie." But then the rest of that conversation, Ricky just kind of kept petitioning over and over. Like he's at one point, I think he was like, "It's behind my lie, dude." Like he kind of keeps saying it. Could they have then turned around and called a courtesy violation on him for petitioning, or is that something where the marshal has to say, "Hey, Ricky, you can't be talking about this right now because the group has to make this decision without you"?
Well, I think that's for spotting.
No,
I
it's
believe.
no, it's for group. It says here specifically for group determinations. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. I think if he was injecting himself without us soliciting his opinion, but the nature of like what happened, I think it was important to hear his perspective. If Ricky had said this was in my line, so I moved it, I think that's a penalty right away. But his perspective was kind of needed there to say, I thought this was behind my lie, and since there wasn't like definitive, kind of visuals on our side, I think that helped inform the group. And like let's just say we have video replay. I think that's a moment you go to video replay. You say like, hey, like let's look at that pile, and what was there disconnected branches in front? Because then it's easy for an official to make that ruling. Honestly.
Gotcha.
So.
So you're saying this is more of a case of like if the rule if like a ruling was going to be happening there, if Ricky got really like in the players' faces about what he thought should happen, but him kind of just standing there and like adding the context. Like I know he was asked, but it was the comments after that, because like he was asked and they were discussing, and then he kind of kept chirping about it a little bit, but not kind of at a level needing of a courtesy violation.
Yeah, I think his input was appropriate, but that's also a new wrinkle. I think if it got to lobbying, we could have shut it down or invoked that rule.
What is because again, I'm looking at the rules and I don't see anything. I mean, the thing that you brought up is actually another thing that's very interesting, because they changed the whole dead end attached to what it is now with the loose obstacles. But the Q&A, where we find that if something is actually behind your lie, but also in front of your lie, that Q&A I think is from 4 years ago. So they haven't updated that. So I'm wondering if that rule still applies, even though just some questions I have there. But what would happen? Because I think the question at hand is, and I think if Mike can pull it up, we've got the two photos of the stick that I think Ricky is actually trying to move. So that stick on the lower left, that is the one that, looking at it, I believe that stick is 100% behind his lie. Yep. And it's going forward. In the next photo, you can actually see him grab that stick as, I want to move this stick. And when he grabs it, I think what happens is he's not able just to remove it because it's caught on a bunch of other stuff. So my question here is, if I have a stick like this that I'm trying to get out of my way, and I pull it out to get it out of my way, and a whole bunch of debris that's unattached and not connected in front of my lie is now also moved, what is the ruling there?
I think the ruling is it's a penalty. Yeah.
So are we now going to have guys end up being like surgeons, of where they have to barely touch a stick? Because at what point is it a penalty? If Ricky just grabs that stick to try to move it, and I see sticks in front of his lie move, can I call that a penalty? Or you see, again, there's nothing in the ruling that really states what can happen. But if you're saying if anything is in front of your lie gets moved, that's a penalty, then what happens when I'm walking up in front of my disc to range find and I kick a pine cone? Technically, that's also by the letter of the law that we're writing. So these are all things that I don't know if the PGA has actually really thought about. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it puts you in a bad spot, because if I come up to you and I say, hey, I just saw Ricky kick that pine cone and it was in front of his lie.
Sure.
You have to give him a stroke.
I think it is a little bit better than that, like clearing loose debris versus unintentionally kicking something.
But it doesn't say unintentional,
you know.
though. That's
Sure.
what I'm saying. If it that's these are wordings, these are things I think need to be in the rules of where if
Right.
it's
And
there's
you're
nothing
going
about
back to the
intentional.
ambiguity of the
Correct.
issue. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it made it, like, sure, you like Gannon and I had a conversation. I was trying to get their read on it because it was very unclear and it happened, and Rick did it quick. And that's where, again, if you're a tournament player and you're listening, bring your group over. I think the group probably would have said, "Hey, probably leave it," but I would say that there's probably the rule book's evolving. The RRAC committee is doing a good job trying to keep up with it, and there does need to be more definition in that case, probably. So.
This seems like just one of those rules that's a little bit too open-ended, and they need to kind of lock it in because I just gave a bunch of examples of things that could happen that we don't want to necessarily see, but could happen.
Right. And it's tough for the players on the card. And in my perspective as officials, that's a very consequential stroke, and I got to be sure that is not attached. And because I was sure that part of it's behind his lie, and he's okay to move that, but then it becomes, is it connected when he moves it? If other things move, and so I think more clarity for sure, and that's probably why we have updates year to year. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, after the conversation, knowing that Ricky felt like, hey, I'm trying to move something behind my lie, which is honestly why I said, hey, why were you moving the debris? And when his answer was it was behind my lie, I think it was like, okay, that was his intent, and there's a lot of gray area here, so we're going to move on. And I think the players on the card, even Gannon, I think felt okay with that outcome. So.
Okay, let's jump forward now to the playoff situation. So we are headed into we're going back to hole number 1. We have the playoff between Ricky and Gannon. My first question here is, was there only at that moment in time, was there only one spotter on the premise, or one spotter? You're an official, obviously following the play behind. Were there any other officials, any other spotters that could have been on that hole? Or was it just the one person that I saw in coverage?
No, there are 2 spotters, one early, one late. The one late actually had another spotter with him that wasn't assigned. The one that was assigned to that area did place the flag where he felt it went out.
There was 2 spotters.
Yeah, there was one assigned there, but one of the spotting leads was down there with him as well.
Okay. Because because I actually went back. I didn't see any spotters initially, but I heard someone talk about that like I think Perkins or someone said that there were 2 spotters on there. So I went back and watched on the drone coverage to see where they were, and I think we can pull up the photo now of the drone footage of the spotter that I could see. Now, maybe there's another one that I'm not able to see on this screenshot. Sure. And Mike, if you're listening, if you can pull up did I send him the spotter? I think I sent him the spotter screenshot. If you can pull that up, potentially. Sorry. There it is. So you can see the little guy. He's kind of in between the two water OBs in the middle of the screen on the right. He comes out from that tree. So he wasn't even on the screen initially. Once the disc hits the water, he comes out of the tree line. So was there another spotter other than this person? Because from this photo, I can't see anyone else.
There's 2 other spotters, to my understanding. I was back at there was one before the pond that you're seeing.
Okay.
There, right? And the other spotter was probably back right behind the tree that you're seeing, that like over on the edge. And
by the basket?
By the
no. Like kind of over, like right edge behind that tree.
Okay, so was there any communication with spotters about getting in? Because in my opinion, like where this spotter is, this guy's useless. This guy has there's no reason for him to be there for Ricky's shot. The spot that matters the most, which ended up happening, unfortunately, is whether or not the disc actually crossed or if it crossed on the side. So, like, was there any discussion on, hey, we need to get a spotter up by the basket by these trees that's watching discs coming in to see if they actually cross and bounce at all? Was there any discussion to any of these guys about that?
Yeah, there was, and it was not before the playoffs, but it was from the spotting
From the beginning
league,
of the
from the
tournament.
beginning of the tournament, where they're there all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they just went back out to their spots. My perspective on this was that it came across a lot more chaotic than it actually was.
Okay.
The spotter, there marked it. Then, actually went over, and people have told me, oh, he's consulting with the crowd. The other spotter was on the edge over there, and he went and talked to them. And, what I can say is that whether it's good or bad, maybe it's entertaining. Like there was fan engagement, fans were lobbying.
Yeah.
And it did add another wrinkle to the process. But I was behind the Gannon and Ricky, the players, as they walked up, and Ricky just beelined it, kind of for his disc on the other side. And I went to the spotter and I said, is this the spot? And he goes, yeah, and I talked to this guy who was the other spotter, and, he's not sure if it's further up on the corner. He kind of thinks it's more up on the corner, which was, basically either further away, but a little bit more direct line to the basket, or over towards the right corner, which would actually block Ricky out. And that's what they were debating. So then I walked a little bit towards like where Ricky and Gannon, I didn't know what they were talking about. They were up looking at where Ricky's disc was. And that's where, like, there were fans saying, like, Rick's up here. He crossed, he went around the tree. I walked back to the spotters and I said, is there any chance this thing went around this tree? And they said, no, it went in front of the tree. It definitely went in front of the tree. And so then I tried to call the players over, and there was a lot of fan engagement, I would say, at that point in time.
I mean, there'll always be when officials are kind of getting the. But I guess my question is do we, in that scenario, would the ideal situation be we have a spotter that is in the proper spot to make a call, and they make the call, and then whatever happens? Like, would that be the ideal situation versus kind of what we're seeing as fans now is like no one really was in a good spot, except it sounds like some of the fans that were probably lined up right where I was talking about being, they probably had the best spot.
Well, we don't need any fan interaction. And honestly, the spotters were not tournament officials. So they put the flag down where they thought it went out. Mm-hmm. I verified, and basically the one spotter that was back kind of walking forward that maybe was a little bit tougher position, and the one that was a little bit more on the side where it probably was a better position had a little bit of a different opinion, but they said it's in this zone. At that point, if it was a full group, the group could make a call. Sure. I was also the official on the card. So basically I was trying to get consensus between Gannon and Ricky, pull them back over, let them talk to the spotters, and eventually we did get them over to do that. It took a minute to do that because they had run up. But when we did that, we said, hey, listen, like the spotters are, it's here where it was marked. That was the official spotter on the hole. It may have crossed over here, but it was a tough throw to call. It's this very high stall. And it was in basically, whether it was that spot or a little bit forward, even the drone, it's tough to call. Even if you're in the perfect position, I think it's a tough shot to call. So I think you got to do your best. And at the end of the day, I Ricky can't really weigh in. And Gannon shouldn't make the call on his own. So I said, like, listen, I'm comfortable with this spot. And then I think, basically Ricky accepted that and said, hey, I'm going to play. So
is there a reason that there wasn't an additional certified official put on that spot, or is it because those were the spotters all tournament for hole one and it's just sort of like natural to send them out?
Yeah, a playoff happens quick, and looking back, you certainly, hey, let's send certified officials out there. But on the certified official side, we do that where we know shots are going to be like under scrutiny time and time again. Like hole 8 at Maple Hill. There's a couple holes at the OTB Open where there's arguments between players, and it's like, no, the official's here. He's a spotter. We're designating that spotter as an official, and that's it. And there's no argument. We didn't. Maybe going back next year, this is a spot to have a certified official. But yeah, it wasn't identified before, and all week it was, here's the spot, and really at the end of the day, players have to accept that spot, or if they all feel it's a different spot, they could choose it. So.
Yeah, I think it being in a playoff and like nothing else is happening, I think that's where it's like, as a spectator and a fan, I don't think any of us would be upset if all of a sudden on that hole there was 10 spotters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone at home being like, why are there 10 spotters out here? Like, it's like, we have the resources to make sure that the best call possible is going to happen. I think a lot of us would want to see that. Okay, let's jump forward and talk a little bit about the tee pads. Something that was brought up, I'm curious from your side if you heard any of these called. People were saying, since the lines were painted and the tee pad wasn't the entire structure, were there any foot faults called? Did you hear of any foot faults being called this week?
I personally did not hear a foot fault called. No, and I didn't see one either, that I called. So okay.
And then did anyone get bit by a snake? That was another thing that a lot of people were talking about.
Well, I think Jake Hebenheimer was trying to get bit by a snake and a gator, but he didn't. No, I didn't hear of any snake bites. There was a wildlife consultant brought in, and every night he'd go out with a spotlight and try to clear the course.
That's it.
Gotcha.
He briefed our team like in the safety meeting before. It was like Tuesday. He came in. He was a New Orleans guy, and he was saying, there's gators, there's timber rattler, yada yada yada. And we, all right. I was like, how many of you pulled off? He goes, hundreds.
Yeah.
So
I think
it was a lot.
Yeah, it was good because I know going into it, a lot of people were like, someone is going to get bit if you have spectators walking around.
That's right.
So it's good to hear no one did. Last question I have for you is, it's very cool to see that we're getting the 1 hour of free disc golf each day. I think that is, we've had that kind of discussion in years past about we love seeing something like that to get people enticed. Have you seen any of the criticism of just the lack of shots? I think some people are saying that, they're only getting like 26 minutes of actual shots because the hour starts with like a bunch of talking and stuff, and then you're not getting the shots. Is there any thoughts of starting the 1 hour free disc golf when the actual disc golf starts?
I'm glad you're bringing it up. I haven't heard a lot. I know that internally we've seen it as, successful. People want to keep watching. They go to DGN free. I know that there was a little hiccup first time that happened, but smoothed out now going forward. Yeah, I mean, we want people to get like conceptually to like hole 6, so we'll definitely take a look at it. But no, I hadn't heard that yet, so I appreciate you bringing it up. But ideally, we're trying to get people into the round. We don't want them to sit there listening to the chatter all day. So we want them to see disc golf.
Absolutely. Gary, you got anything else?
You're 2 events into the season. You have your inaugural event down with Supreme Flight, and now a brand new event done with Big Easy, and you're now leading into a new event, but at a familiar venue.
Yeah.
Do you think, are you at where you wanted to be at after 2 events as the tour, or are there things that like, okay, some tweaks are still being made going into this next event?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a fantastic start to the season, probably the best start we've had. Ton of fans at the events. We're definitely up in terms of spectators. We're up in terms of subscribers. I think the drama's been great. We've put a big purse out there on both events, so there's a lot of things that are going in the right direction. But you can always improve. We're hungry to do better. We're talking a lot about the event experience and how it translates to a great product for viewers. And we think like that beating heart of our tour is having a great event on the ground, great experience for people that are coming out and just entertainment. We're thinking about it. Hey, this is an entertainment product. We think it's been entertaining so far. But what can we do, more while upholding the integrity of the game? It's a professional sport, but in all professional sports, you want to entertain your fan base. So we're trying to lean into that. We had a lot of great on the ground experiences, from swamp tours, to some go-karting, to some adventures, downtown New Orleans. And it's definitely a stop that has, for a first year event, hit the mark. I think there's a lot to talk about. There's plenty to criticize, but at the end of the day, I think it moved us in the right direction for early season. Early season's kind of been, like, frankly, a little dead the last couple of years. So we want to inject a little life in, and we're looking forward to Charlotte, kind of trying to continue that in a big disc golf city. We're looking a lot at markets and, like, where do we need to be to make these events really pop. And I think, we're off to a good start this year. In terms of improvement, we definitely want to keep investing in figuring out, how to officiate the game the right way for the fans, for the players. We did have, 2 officials on that final card. It was me and assistant PD Nathan Farber. So shout out New Orleans Disc Golf Club, who did a fantastic job in their first year. They've only run a couple A tiers, and they knocked it out of the park. So big ups to them. But always stuff to improve. So but we're excited with the start.
Yeah, I think as a first year event, from a spectator, I think it was a great start. And it seems like a lot of people that were on the grounds also really enjoyed it. And sounds like the course designer also is very interested in continuing to adapt the course and make changes, which is exciting. It sounds like the community too. I think that's the big thing, is behind it. Because it's one thing to say, hey, we want to do this, this, and this. And it's another thing for the government to step in and say, well, you can't do that. So it seems like those people there are making a lot of changes, which is awesome.
Jefferson Parish, which is basically, parish is like short for, I guess, like city or county, in Louisiana, but they help fund the event and the changes to the course, and they are unbelievable. They're down for anything. We had a parks department that was going, for like a year, like hard, making some changes, making some investments. So big shout out to Jefferson Parish. And obviously, John wanted to bring a different flavor, of course, and I think he succeeded there. I think that, there's certainly adjustments that need to be made, and, it'll get there. But I mean, when I first walked the course like 18 months ago, I didn't expect to, I thought, hey, this has run some successful A tiers. This is a great FBO course. It just needs to be cleaned up. And John kind of went mad scientist a little there. It was good drama. I'll say that. Yeah. So we know that there's things to clean up.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to watch, and we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing over there, and we look forward to seeing what's next on tour.
All right.
Hopefully you get home safely, brother.
Yeah. Hopefully by 2 a.m. But I appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to next time.
Of course. Safe travels.
All right.
Thank you.
Later.
All right. There you guys have it. Jeff Spring joined Tour Life, as always. Always fun to talk with him. Some disc golf. And like he said, we had a lot of drama, Gary, on the course, the actual play itself, and the the little stuff in between all the play. And one of the guys that was right in the mix of all of it was Gannon Burr, who is joining us now. And for the record, I said, listen, when we're going to a course, no one knows what the flip we're doing. No one knows where to throw.
I heard it, man.
How hard this course is. You picked the number 1 player in the world, and I got outvoted by Gary and Yuli. Yeah, well, they didn't let me pick you. Gannon, I was trying to pick you.
Yo,
I appreciate it. I appreciate the support, and I'm glad I didn't let you down.
Shout out Chris Dickerson, by the way.
Chris Dickerson did have a good finish.
I can't hear Gary.
Oh, what? Gary's got to figure out his audio.
You can't hear me? Can't hear me?
Nope. Still no.
Brody, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, it's Gannon then.
I can't hear him.
Should I leave? Get back in? Yeah, try leaving and coming back and seeing if that fixes it.
Yep. Yep, just want to put it out there. Aaron Gossage, Chris Dickerson. We know who won that
yeah,
battle.
I love that you just completely changed the topic and just went there instead of
all I know is we got Gannon all year long for 8 picks. We didn't need him this week. We'll talk about that later. But
we could have got a win.
We had a win.
I think it would have been nice. I think it would have been nice. Goose was one of only 3 birdies on 18. Wow.
Yep. Same with Luke Taylor. I don't know who the third one was.
My favorite stat was I think it was it Aiden Scott. That was the only one to birdie number, was it 14 or something? And that was his only birdie of the round. He was the only one to birdie it. Only one to birdie it on the day. And it was his only birdie in the entire round. That was hilarious. Oh, Freddie Meza.
Freddie Meza? Oh,
local,
man, I love that.
Local. Dude, Freddie is
Madman Meza.
Freddie is nasty. All right.
I can hear him now. I can hear him now.
All right, you're back. Okay.
Oh, I think I spelled my name wrong. That's okay.
No, you're fine. No one can see that.
Boom, I fixed it.
Only us. Okay. Gannon, first off, congratulations on I would say a very tough win. Where would you kind of stack this one with all the other wins you've got?
Yeah, I was thinking about where I would put it. I mean, obviously, like, it's not a big tournament in terms of, like, Elite Plus or playoff or major. It's just a normal 3-round Elite Series. But in terms of how it went down and obviously the challenge of the course, I mean, if we're going off the battle, I'd probably put it somewhere in the top 5. So it's, it's definitely, sorry about this animal barking. Hopefully you can't hear that too loud. Yeah, the battle was crazy. Like, it was back and forth, hitting big putts for me and Ricky, throwing good shots. And I think that's and the energy was there. So I would definitely put it probably top 5.
What's the, people are talking about how this is the longest course on tour. I believe it's the same par as Northwood, but it's 2,000 feet longer. What is the mental and physical toll that it took on you guys playing 3 rounds out there? Like, is it very different than like Des Moines, let's say, a course that's pretty straightforward? You kind of know what you have to do. Like, when you leave Des Moines, are you feeling the same way as you feel now?
I don't know. I mean, I felt like it was maybe more of a mental thing for me. I didn't really physically have a problem with it because it was so flat. I mean, you literally do not, the elevation changes like 5 feet over the entire course. So, there's not much hiking. It's really just more like walking. So honestly, we were playing practice rounds and I get done and I wouldn't be that dead, honestly. And because it's so flat, the 12,000 feet, it doesn't seem like that bad actually. I would say if it was more hilly, I probably would have noticed a bigger issue, but yeah, it definitely wasn't bad at all. And I think, when the tournament came around and it was, we were 9 holes in, I was definitely this is crazy. We're already 2 hours in. We're only 9 holes in. So it was definitely played longer in the tournament.
Slog. Yeah, slog.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your pre-tournament press conference, you said you can say the course is hard, but I would say it's more unfair than anything. After now playing 3 tournament rounds on it, do you still kind of stand by that? And if so, can you give us a little bit more explanation on why you view this course as being a little bit unfair?
Yeah, I would say it grew on me a tiny bit, but I also don't know if that's because I just got so numb to playing holes where you just throw at a wall of trees and hope you get through, So, hole 11 is a good example. It's a 380. I don't even know what the shot is. I'm not even sure what the fairway is on that hole.
Yeah.
But I walk up to it the final round, and at this point, I think it's my 6th round of this course, and I'm like, oh, here we are, hole 11, and I don't really think too much of it, but I'm still just throwing at a wall of trees and hoping it gets through. And it's I think I had a good mental game going into this week that obviously, it sucks that not the holes don't have super clean lines, but you kind of have to deal with it. So I think mentally, I kind of put it in the back of my head and more just kind of played the course. And that's why I was going over the top on a lot of the holes. But yeah, I still definitely stand by what I said in the press conference in terms of, how the course was. I said it wasn't tournament ready. I think that was true. There's probably 9 holes that need work. The layout I think is fine, but they're just I don't know if it was because they were scared for it to get shredded or they just wanted to keep trees or something like that. But there was definitely too many trees out there to, especially in the par four. Most of the par fours on the second shots were the problem.
Yeah, I'm really hoping John takes a look at just how you guys played the course, some of your guys' thoughts on the course, because he's a smart guy. It's really easy to take out a tree. It's really hard to put that same tree back in the ground. And so changing some of these holes up, um, making some of these lines, because I agree with you as a viewer that hasn't played. There was definitely some times where it seemed like you guys were just chucking it and just hoping it got through, which might not be the most enjoyable disc golf to watch or to play. But with that being said, question for you: if he goes in and starts taking trees out, how would you feel about maybe some mandos going in to force players not to be able to just throw over top of all the trees like you guys were kind of doing a couple holes?
Yeah, I'm all for that. I don't want to have to go over the top. I mean, I don't like that that's a thing. Like I want to be able to play the course how it's intended to be played. But if you're giving players not really that kind of fairness, they're gonna go above. They're not gonna want to deal with the luck. They're gonna do whatever they can to try to take the luck out of equation. And for me, that was going over the top on a lot of the holes. I couldn't really do it the final day because it was so windy. But yeah, I'm all for Mandos. I wish there was like a slightly less punishing Mando we could put in the woods where it's like, I don't know exactly what the punishment would be. But like hole 6 was a par 4 off the tee, and I think I threw the best drive of the group. I like squared up the first tree kind of in the fairway, but it was like the closest one to the our intended shots. I think Ricky shanked his right, Isaac and Luke went like right, and then Isaac went way left. And it's like, okay, and they all had better drives than me. I'm like, well, no one was trying to go where they threw it. And then they get way further, and then mine is off by a foot, and then I'm 100 feet back of everybody at least. So it's like, I'm all for like, because you can step up to a disc golf hole and you're like, okay, this is the obvious gap, this is the intended gap. Nobody's trying to go, this way or that way, and that's like the type of fairness I would like to see. Like, we're like, okay, you have to, obviously it's good to have options, but I hate wooded disc golf. And I think this course showed a lot of it where you would miss your line and you'd get through everything. That's just how it was.
What was the par 3 that you ended up throwing a decent shot, but it was a little low, and so you ended up having it was
15?
Is that what it was? And then Ricky threw one that was like turning over. It was a par 3, and then like Ricky was kind of like trying to get it to miss the trees.
That was 17.
17. I don't think Ricky's trying to go right of those trees.
No, he parked it going left the other day.
So that's where it's like, I'm with you as a viewer. Like, I don't really necessarily want to see someone benefit from throwing a really bad, like if he would have thrown less a bad shot, he would have smacked into those trees and had a really long putt.
Exactly.
He threw a worse shot and ended up having a much better. And so that to me is like the hard part about disc golf is if you throw a worse shot, a lot of times in the woods, it ends up being better than the people that throw a bad shot. And that should never be the case.
I don't watch any golf, and like that never happens in golf, right? Like you can't hit it worse and get a better result, right? Like that doesn't happen.
There's occasionally times where it'll go in, but most of the time, if you hit it worse, it's hitting a tree and dropping down. You're not like hitting off of a tree and then ricocheting onto the green.
Okay,
It's 1 in 1,000, right? It's very random that those happen. In disc golf, it seems like it happens constantly throughout rounds.
For sure. I mean, people are going to be weird about it. They're going to be like, oh, it's the creative part of the game, or it's just, oh, luck's in disc golf. I'm like, well, we can do things to take it out. We can do things to take luck out of the game. And part of that is course design and fixing that. There's obviously you can only do so much with the land or the terrain or the trees that you have if we're talking about a wooded course. But like I think of like Nevin in Charlotte as a good example. They have a lot of really good wooded par 3s that are over 400 feet that if you miss the line,
impossible.
you are not going to park the hole. You're going to be getting a bogey. And it feels like out here, it's like hole 11, people weren't even trying to hit the line. They were just trying to shank it inside and hope to get through. Like that should never be the option. I'm always for, and then it comes back to the thing like, do we want scores to be more like golf? And disc golf's just always going to be easier from short range, and we're going to be, I think, more accurate just based off how the sport is. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we're still trying to figure out ways to make approaching harder, like putting a basket on a hillside or putting bunkers around the basket to force you to one side to have to make a scary putt and stuff like that. I think that's good, but just putting plinko trees everywhere is not the way to do that.
Yeah.
So some of the pros too, I saw were complaining about the grass being super long and not allowing for skips.
Yeah.
I would think, being someone that's one of the most accurate throwers, that actually would be beneficial more to you, because again, skipping a lot of times is when a bad shot, someone releases a disc low when they're not trying to. If the disc can skip, it can advance way farther ahead of where they were actually trying to land the disc. Where if it's thick grass and you throw low, you're not getting that skip. Do you not like that rationale with the longer grass?
I think having skippy grass takes a little more skill because you have to have a little more touch. Where like you could literally rip a disc at the basket, and like we were playing practice, and it would look like it went in water. It would literally like hit the grass and just die. You could throw rip drivers at the basket and wouldn't skip. Like, when you play like really fast greens in Arizona or like even Las Vegas, you actually have to really think about your angle coming in, and you have to control it. I don't see it too many times where like someone throws a low shot and then it just like, skips up. It doesn't happen that often. So I'd rather have it be where like, okay, you actually have to play for a little bit of a ground play or skip. I think that's definitely a skill aspect of the game. But when we were playing in practice, dude, they mowed I think Wednesday or Thursday before the tournament, and it was like ankle high the entire course. Like literally, I was like, there's no way we're playing like this. Luckily they mowed, but it would have been bad if they didn't.
So what are your thoughts?
And you were having some issues with
go ahead, Gary.
You were having some issues with like the moisture on the grass too, especially on like the forehands and stuff on the front foot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it's an old swamp. It's gonna hold a little bit of water, and the grass was super lush, so it was like real hydrated grass. And if you stepped on it too much or found a bad spot, there was a couple bad spots in the course, a little bit wet, and they got pretty slick.
So I don't know if you remember if you played Belton. The one year where they like cut I think it might have just been circle one, but they cut circle one grass to be really, really short. Is that something that we can maybe see in the future of, you're talking about, you're having your second shot, your tee shots coming to these greens. What if they kept the grass the way it was and circle two and in, they cut it super short. So that way, when you're throwing your shots in, you got to have that kind of touch. Do you like that idea?
I mean, yeah, that could definitely work. I think like if you do it like circle one, it kind of works as almost like an island where, or if you have like walls on it, where like you have to clear the wall, but then you also don't want to skip off the back. So it kind of like there, it'd be like, okay, if you land your disc at 40 feet, you're not going to get any skip, but which also means you want to land it inside C1 to get the skip. But if you land it deep in C1, you're going to just skip back out to C2. So
could be interesting.
Could be interesting. That's definitely something that like, and I think visually too, it could be good. I'm a huge fan for like, if you have an open course, you have like long grass as the rough. That way you can actually get a visual. For Des Moines, I try to get them to keep the grass as long as we can. I haven't honestly been happy with. And if you're listening, Ty, we got to make it long this year, bro. But, I just want to, I think it makes a great visual, especially because when it starts to get a little like kind of yellowish at the top of the grass, you can really tell the difference, and it looks really nice, and it kind of carves the fairway, especially for the viewership side of things.
Yeah, hole one is hole 1 and 2 look great with that long grass right in the middle. All right,
it.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying clip it. Send it to.
Yeah.
Send it to Ty.
The other thing that I
That's
want to say about the grass length, though, is I do think it also came into play with people not attempting rollers. And as someone uh a fan of the sport, one of the things that I cannot stand is when I just watch players chuck forehand rollers with no care of really where it's going. They're just trying to advance it as far as possible. We really only saw Isaac attempt it on lead card the final day. None of his really turned out to be anything special. But did you see like the rollers weren't really an option because of the grass? Would you have thrown more rollers if the grass was short throughout the course?
I think you would have saw it on maybe the par 5 12, and then so I mean I was going roller off hole two's tee pad. The only reason I didn't the final round, it was so windy, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
The grass wasn't the problem, and I actually had a pretty short birdie look round two going roller off the tee on hole two, and that hole only had like two birdies that day. So uh, I had game planned a couple rollers. A lot of it was more wind dependent than anything. Why I didn't throw them, but I did throw two rollers the first two rounds on two, and then. But yeah, I mean, I saw rollers in practice, and they're like they'd hit the ground and they'd go like 40 feet, and it would
Yeah.
just wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I like seeing people have to like try to figure out, obviously off the tee is one thing, but like scrambling, like when you're in a tough spot, I think a lot of times people just look to the ground and just chuck a
Just
forehand
chuck,
roller,
yeah,
yeah.
and we weren't seeing that. We weren't seeing that because I think people were afraid that it wasn't going to go anywhere. So why even attempt it?
yeah.
So that was one thing I did like to see about the thick grass. Um, Let's see here. We already talked about the Mandos, talked
The
about
mounds.
adding some trees. Let's talk a little bit about the actual scores of the course, the spread of the scores. So something I look at is I want, as a viewer, when I'm watching you guys play, I want you guys stepping up at the tee pad with the idea that you could birdie, you could par, you could bogey, you could double, you could triple. Like I want all those scores to be on the table. And sometimes we play courses and you guys play courses that it's really just birdie or par. And that's like really the only thing that's on the table. And I think looking at the scores, the final day here, I think this course did an okay job. Now, obviously, there are some that skew a little bit more towards the par and bogey side. But I think the score separation on the majority of these holes were pretty good. Did you kind of see the same thing being out there?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I think if it's kind of a weird one because as a course as a whole, it was horrible. It was terrible. I mean, you saw it with the ratings. I mean, Ricky said it was a top 5 round of his life, and it was a 1070 rated round. And when you see the spread that small, it means like hole two is like a perfect example. It's like, oh, chuck to the woods, no line, chuck to the woods, no line, layup, everybody gets a par. I mean, you saw a couple occasional
Yeah,
bogeys.
hole two's not a great hole. That's
Yeah,
one where it's like half the field basically got par, half the hole two is essentially a harder version of the birdie or die courses, right? Instead of birdie or
Yeah.
par, we're now getting par or bogey, which I agree with you. I don't think is a good hole.
yeah. And so I actually was looking at the stats of the course quite a bit too. And there was 6 holes that had less than, or I think it was less than 6% birdie rate, which
Mhm.
like that's terrible. You can't have that. I mean, which I think that's I know John Houck was trying out some new things this weekend with the course design and in the philosophy there with getting people in the circle two and having to make putts. Obviously, that kind of goes out the window when it gets super windy. But the other problem with that is that you really don't get rewarded that well for like a better shot than your competitor because a pro player, you only make, I mean, from let's just say like 55 feet. If I had 10 attempts at a 55 footer, I don't know. I feel like I'd probably make it two or three times. It depends. And that's like
But you're
you
probably making that more than most people, though.
I am,
Well,
but it's like
well, not this weekend. You didn't.
it's it's not like enough of a reward if that makes sense. And the problem with that too is when you try to push people to circle two after like two good or great shots, especially in the woods, if they see a line that is like lucky that could get them into C1 or even they're going to take that every single time. They would rather guarantee either a par worst case or a circle one birdie look than having to throw a good shot to deep C2 every single hole and then mentally wear on you, miss. Every time you miss, it just gets that much harder to make it feels like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I think I just like, and again, obviously we kind of discussed it. It's very hard with disc golf to make a hole that's fair, but also has the score separation. I think this is just, and again, I'm very curious to see what he does because I think this is right now looking at it has the potential of being one of the better, harder courses.
Yeah,
for sure.
That creates score separation. Because again, like I agree with you, like hole 18, not a single birdie the final day. That's not ideal when you have 99 people playing it. But when you're looking at the actual score separation, 27% par, 39% bogey, 33% double or better.
It's actually really good.
That's really good. But then it's like, okay, how do you just shift everything a little bit left to make it a little easier, but keep the score separation the way it is?
Well, it's not that it needs to be like easier. It just needs to be more fair. I think people kind of like a PSA for everyone out there. I've seen a lot of comments like, oh, pros are whining this, that. They're mad they can't shoot 30 under this event. Like, we don't care about that. We just want fairness. Hole 18 is not fair. Like, literally, you have to land in a 1 foot area, square foot area to have a chance at birdie on that hole. Like a clean chance at birdie. The only birdies I saw Luke Taylor get a lucky kick. I saw Aaron Gossage just rip one through the back door and get through everything, and then he banged a huge putt.
Yeah.
And then I think Freddie Meza, like, I mean, you have to get through trees. Like, we just want a fair hole, and that's what people online like don't understand. Like, I don't know why it's that hard to understand, but like we just want fairness and a hole with that scoring spread is fine, even if it's par, bogey, and double or worse, as long as it's fair.
Yeah, and Brookie in the chat, or Brooke in the chat, says par doesn't matter. Why does it need to shift left? My answer to this is if par doesn't matter, then why do we even keep it? Why do we not just say
it changes players' decisions?
Why don't we just say that Gannon won because he shot? Do they even not? They don't even do that, do they? We can't even see your total score. You shot. No, but I'm saying you shot 66, so that's 132, 132. Gannon shot 196. If par doesn't matter, then we should just do that. Gannon shot 196. There's a reason for par. Par is something that people can understand. Par it shows you how many shots it's allowing you to get to the green, how many putts it's allowing you to make the basket. The whole sport is based off of par. So, yes, does it matter that people are getting pars, bogeys, and doubles on hole 18, and they could have been getting birdies, pars? The point is we're trying to make holes where, like Gannon was saying, are fair. People can birdie them. Yeah. People can par them. And if you play them poorly, you're going to shoot over par. That's what we're looking for. And ideally, you're trying to set that up. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the gameplay, and then we'll kind of go into some of the more like drama stuff that happened. So
drama.
This was a very interesting round, and I think because of the difficulty of the course, and on top of like the flukiness, if you want, or like the unfairness, you're never really out of it. So going into this final day, what were your feelings like starting behind Ricky and going into the final day?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple different thoughts in my head. There was one where I like wasn't as stressed out because I knew the course was so hard. It's not like I have to like, there's not that pressure of like, oh crap, I need to put down a 15 under today. Like sometimes on a tour course, you're 4 back and people are usually shooting maybe like an 11 under par. Well, 15 under is insanely hard. That means you're only missing 3 shots the entire day. So I knew I knew it maybe played in my favor a little bit. I knew that like it's pretty much impossible to avoid bogeys out here. You're going to bogey at some point, and there are a couple holes that do have a stroke swing. And as much as I think it maybe hurt me my game plan a little bit because it was windy because I was going over the top so much. I couldn't do that anymore. I do think it helped me on a couple different situations where maybe Ricky threw a bad shot because it got windy or he missed a putt or something. Where it's like if it wasn't windy, he probably would have made the putt or something like that. So, I guess I kind of forgot what the question was. I just kept rambling off.
Oh, you're just talking about your feelings going into the round.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, I felt fine. I wanted to cut it to 2 after 9. I cut it to 2 after 10, so I was pretty close to my goal. But I just wanted to stay in it because I knew 18. Like if I get a par, that's pretty much a stroke there. And I also was thinking about 16 in my mind because if 16, if you get off the fairway at all, it feels like it's a bogey.
Yeah. And let's jump to, because the beginning of the round was, kind of a little bit back and forth. We saw moments. I mean, you actually had some really great holes there. You birdied 3 holes between holes 7 and 10. You had a nice little 3-hole birdie stretch there. We saw some big putts from Ricky early, getting the crowd involved, getting hyped up. And you guys kind of separated early from Isaac and Luke to where it was, from the crowd standpoint, we were watching, it was going to either come down to you or Ricky at that point. And did you kind of feel that shift in the middle of the round as well, as where Isaac and Luke kind of fell off that front 9 and it was really just you and Rick?
Yeah, I would have to look back at Isaac's scorecard. I think he was actually beating me through.
So he was
5 holes or 6 holes, maybe.
He was 1 under through he was 1 over through 9. You were 1 under through 9.
Okay, I think because he has spit out on 9, and then he bogeyed 8, and then he missed 7 or 6 or I think he missed 7 as well. So he was up 1 after 6, I believe.
Yeah.
So so he kind of was still in it. Obviously, like he had me by 1 after 6.
Going into the back 9, that's where you had taken 2 shots
for sure. Yeah. I guess it was kind of weird. Like you're so focused on the leader, you don't even really care about people who are near you at that point. I'm just like, I remember Portland last year. Kyle and I were kind of chasing AB, and we're almost like having a good time. Like, yeah, dude, let's go. Like we're getting him. Like it was a team effort or something. But like really, like obviously, I'm still competing against Kyle, and we that was kind of the same vibe I was getting there. I was like, me and Isaac were like, oh, doors open. We're like kind of like waiting for that chance to jump through, and then yeah, he kind of just fell off there toward the middle, and then obviously the end just didn't really capitalize on anything. So yeah, I think after maybe like 14, I was like, it's definitely just me and Ricky.
Do you think going on to that putt from Ricky on hole 15, where that's one of those putts where you're almost kind of already walking to the next tee pad, assuming they're going to make that putt? Do you think the course, like when we see these challenging courses on tour, and like you said, it's a battle. Like you're having to go in there, you're having to think how to save pars. You're throwing shots and they're not going to where you want them to be. Do you think that adds up to where mistakes like that are made because of the mental toll? And did you feel yourself at all having to try like snap out and be like, I need to focus on the shot, or I got to focus on this putt? Was that kind of a mental battle there down the stretch?
Yeah, I'd say for Ricky on that putt, it was more of a mental lapse than anything. I don't think he was nervous or anything. I think he just thought he made it. Like I think he just guaranteed it in his head. And something I've been doing recently a lot, especially at a place like this, is like I'm like, okay, yeah, like just keep your follow through straight, keep the disc in a straight line. That way, I'm kind of making it so even if I do mess up, it's still going to go in when I get nervous. So, but I was talking with Sully about it. He was telling me, he's like, dude, like putting so hard this week because when you have the chances and you miss, maybe you have a birdie chance and you miss, you're like, dude, that was my one chance. Like everything just like it keeps piling on. And luckily my putting's been really good. I didn't miss a single circle 1 for the weekend, and I was over 50% from circle 2, including a few layups. So, was obviously higher than that with the ones that I was running. That helped me a lot. I think I still felt that anxiety, but I honestly got kind of fortunate. I didn't really land at the 30-foot range much. I was either like 20 feet in or I was like 40 feet and out. And I was making my putts outside and obviously was making the ones inside. So that's definitely a factor when it comes to a hard course anytime because the putting actually does matter a lot.
That's so interesting because it's for those listening. I think we can relate when we play, like an alternate shot or something format of where you get to like hole 6 and it's like, oh, you have to putt, and you're like, I haven't putted all day.
Yeah.
Like you have like a 25 footer. It's your first one of the day. It's similar to this course, right? Of where you're not getting 25 footers, 30 footers every hole and getting into a rhythm. You could go 7 or 8 holes without a putt inside the circle.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you got your first 20 footer 2.5 hours into your round. And you're like, I can't miss this one. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Something I didn't really think about. Okay, so let's jump to let's jump back a second because I am curious what your take on this is. Hole 12, Ricky asked you guys if he can break a branch, right? So it looks like from what I can tell, it looks like a fairly large branch has fallen behind his line.
I'll tell you this. It wasn't a branch. It was about a 40-foot tree.
Okay, fairly large tree is dead behind his lie, and there's just really one kind of branch from that larger tree that's kind of in his way. And so in his head, he's like, I don't want to move this big tree. I just want to move this little branch. And so he just wants to snap it off. Now, obviously, that's against the rules. You can't do anything about that. But what is your take on the rules? Did you think he would have been able to move that entire tree, I guess we can call it, behind him if it was not attached?
Well, I believe the rule changed from dead and unattached to just loose debris.
Correct. Are we considering that loose debris?
I mean, it's definitely not loose. It's like
You think it was still connected to the ground?
No, I'm just saying because it's like 500 pounds. No, I mean that's a weird one. He did make a good point. He was like, well, it's the same as a small stick. It's just big,
Yeah, he said it's a bigger, small stick.
It's like at what point? I feel like disc golf is full of those type of things. Like, the time rule is another one where it's just like what is actually the start of it, or like what's the size of a loose debris that you can't move? It's like it's super weird. So I don't blame him at all for asking that question or about moving it. Obviously, we weren't able to move it because it was so heavy. But I think it's a valid point, honestly, and it definitely is just kind of a interesting rule, kind of a tough position to be put in.
Yeah. It's one that I think the PDGA needs to look in to make it a little bit more strict on what they're talking about, because you want everyone to play under the same rules, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're fast forwarding now to hole 16, and I guess the first question is, where is everyone on the hole in relation to Ricky when Ricky is doing his stick gathering? Where is everyone, and how far away?
Campfire building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was probably 25, 30 feet to his left. And then Luke was probably 15 feet to my left. And then Isaac was probably like 15 feet to his left. So there were about 15-foot gaps between me, Isaac, and Luke. But then I was probably like 25 feet from Ricky, maybe 30 feet.
Okay. And so question for you, did you actually see him moving the sticks, or was that something you later saw on coverage?
Yeah, well, I said this in another podcast. I couldn't even send a text message, so there was no way I was pulling up the coverage.
Okay.
The cell service was so bad. I had the worst night. I had a nightmare my second round trying to get my score submitted. It was horrible. Because literally, I couldn't access anything. So definitely no way it was on coverage. I want to clear that up because I did see some comments like, oh, well, Gannon used video evidence to do this. I'm like, no, there was no way I could have done that. I saw it real time happen, and Jeff Spring was a foot to my left. He was actually, I'm not sure why he was next to me, but he was right next to me. And yeah, I guess.
So when we saw you talking to Jeff, that was basically kind of like right after that situation. That was that was the conversation, or did you guys walk down the fairway a little bit?
Yeah, so as Ricky was moving the sticks, I turned to Jeff. I'm like, I don't think that was behind his lie. I was
Oh,
like, I was trying to see if Jeff had like a better eye on it because I think I caught it like a second too late. Like Ricky had already been touching the sticks at that time, and so that was why like I wasn't really able to like morally call him because now looking back, it was definitely a violation. He definitely, there were sticks that were not extending back into his lie that he moved. But at the time, I didn't want to be the guy who like didn't know for 100% fact that he, that it didn't. Maybe it did extend in his lie. So I was kind of more asking Jeff if he saw the whole thing, and unfortunately, I think he caught about as much as I did because when I talked to him, I think is when he about saw it, and at that point, I was like, well. I don't know what to do. Obviously, I brought it up to him, so I think that's why it got brought up on the next hole. But I saw it right away when it happened in real time.
So that was another thing that we kind of were talking to Jeff about before you came on was, looking at the situation, it was one of those where he had one stick that was in front of his lie, but also behind his lie.
Yes.
And that was the one stick that he really wanted to move. And I think when he initially touched it, he realized that there was a bunch of mumbo jumbo going on. It wasn't just like a clean peel away. And that's why I was asking Jeff is right now, technically, based on how the rules are written, if you go and try to move something that's behind your lie, but also in front of your lie, and it moves something that's in front of your lie, that's a penalty.
Yep,
which I think is kind of crazy.
That gets a little touchy because it's like, well, then how am I supposed to get the stick out?
Correct. And I think there needs to be something in there talking about the, unintentionally, because we also brought up to Jeff the way the rules are written. If you go up to do your little rangefinder thing and you kick a pine cone that's a foot in front of your disc, I also could call a penalty on that.
Yeah,
there's nothing in the rules that says intentional, which I think is what needs to be said.
Yeah, and then the Ricky scenario is almost like even weirder because it wasn't intentional in terms of like, I saw comments saying, oh, Ricky's cheating, like he would never actually like, oh, let me move these sticks and get a better advantage. Like that's not like he was in the moment, he was locked in. There's crap all over that course. There's sticks everywhere. So like you've been moving it the whole day. I just don't think he was thinking. That doesn't mean, he wasn't in the wrong, but I just don't think he knew what he was doing at the time, So that's another one where it's like, well, was it even intentional? It's like that gets weird too.
Yeah, I think my take on the whole thing is I'm with you, Gannon. The way I view cheating is someone that is trying to do something and not get caught. That is when you're cheating. If you break a rule and you just you're not a cheater. You just broke a rule. But someone that is specifically doing something and trying not to get caught, or doing something and then lying about it to not get a penalty, that is someone that is cheating. So I don't think I'm with you. I've played with Ricky. I've seen him on coverage a lot. He's not the type of person that is trying to gain an advantage by cheating or by doing anything like that. I think he simply, and again, might be this time extension, which we'll get into here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was trying to move a stick. It wasn't moving. He like walked around and was like, this stick is with all these other sticks. He just like picked them all up and moved them, not thinking anything of it. And then I think if Jeff Spring would, because I think Jeff, he came on here and said that he wished he would have said it to Ricky right then and there and not later. Yeah. I think if Jeff would have walked over right after you said something to him and asked Ricky, I think at that moment in time, Ricky would have been like, oh, crap. Yeah, that was in front of my lie.
And I think that would have been a stroke then too.
Correct. Yeah. But I think he was just so like locked in.
For
he
sure.
Didn't really know what was going on. And then he mentions here I don't know if you saw the post that he wrote, but he mentions in the post, he says, after seeing the footage and hearing the discussion, I understand why people have questions about the situation. Looking back, I should have called the card over before moving any of the cut limbs in question. That's on me. In intense moments like this, like that, you're often already moving on from the previous shot and focusing on the next one. And it was brought up on the next tee. I didn't immediately realize they were referring to that shot. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the integrity of the game and would have never intentionally break a rule to gain an advantage. So, a couple things from this that I take is one, it seems like there was confusion from his part, which makes sense because we've all played with Ricky. He's very locked in when he plays.
The most.
When you bring something up to him, his head's probably scrambling about like what the heck. And like you said, you guys were moving stuff out there all the time. You're on coverage with you and your caddy moving a stick. People are moving stuff all the time. So I'm with him on that. Shout out. But the one thing that I think is interesting here that we don't see from him is he never fully says that he didn't break a rule. So I think that's the one thing that I think is interesting from his post is if I had people coming after me telling me that they thought I broke a rule, and I know for a fact I did not break a rule, I would have that in my post. I would say the angle looked weird. All those sticks were protruding behind my lie. Everything was clean. But he doesn't say anything. All he says in here is kind of what me and you were discussing, Gannon, about the fact that he wasn't intentionally trying to cheat. He wasn't cheating. He wasn't intentionally breaking a rule, aka cheating. And I'm curious, and maybe we can have a discussion with Ricky in the future. I'm curious if you asked him now if he would be like, "Oh yeah, those sticks were in front."
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, I 100% believe. Yeah, it wasn't intentional when he did it. He wasn't trying to, like I said, gain an advantage or anything like that. But on the next tee pad, I don't know what the truth is, to be honest.
It didn't look good. If you're a jury and you're listening to your guys' discussion, it did not look good for Ricky.
No. Yeah, because he was. I mean, I'm not calling him a liar or anything like that, but like I said, like it's very, very possible, like. He just immediately forgot, didn't even think about it, can't even remember it. That's 100% possible. But maybe he did realize, like, oh crap, those probably were in front of my lie. But I don't know. I guess I don't really know where I'm going here, but there's a chance maybe it was like, oh crap, they might have been.
Yeah, and the thing is like we know Ricky. It's like. I know some people might look at that and be like, that didn't really sound that good. Like he said one thing and then he immediately said something else. But if you know Ricky, like that's not super uncommon for him to, in the heat of the moment like that, for him to do. So it's the whole thing is weird. And I think this is again something where the PDGA, the Disc Golf Pro Tour, these type of things, they need to get worked out. They need to see these things and say, okay, how do we make sure this never happens again? Because now let's fast forward to the playoff situation. And I made a joke, which will be on debate night here. So you guys will hear this joke here first and then hear it again. I'm wondering, someone from the Disc Golf Pro Tour or from the tournament staff, someone out there had to go up to the band and tell the band, hey, listen, no one's going to win it on hole 18. We're going to hole number 1. We need you guys to move to hole 1, and this is where we need you guys to go. So when whoever wins, you guys are in the back of the shot. You guys are playing the music, yada, 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 right? Someone had to tell the band. The band did not know where to go. Someone had to tell the band where to go. My question is, why is the Disc Golf Pro Tour or whoever is doing this, why are they more concerned about telling the band to get in the right spot than having an official on the line of where the biggest call could possibly happen on the final hole?
Well, I'll just say this too. I think the biggest problem here is, the officials that are, being paid to be out here, they're really not making any calls. Like, you know how many times, you know, I bet you there was 3 foot faults that final round that didn't get called.
More.
Probably more. And like, when was the last time you saw a marshal call anything other than a time violation? Like, there's other rules in disc golf that they are supposed to call, and they don't call a single one except for the time violation one. And it's like, obviously, I'm a little salty because of that, but it's like foot faults happen like so often, and those should be penalized, and they never get brought up because the marshals are not paying attention. And you know, obviously it's tough. It's tough to stay locked in, but I think with a little bit of training, you could get a marshal to be pretty spot on, where it's like, okay, player in the rough, let me make sure he doesn't move anything, or all right, tee pad, let me watch his feet. You know, obviously nothing's going to happen with the upper body. We're watching his feet here, and so like, as a marshal, you can kind of get trained to look, you know what to look for, and that way you don't miss one. But I just like, I mean, the last one that was called was Kristen, you know, was that last year? And yeah, and there's been hundreds of foot faults in competition on camera that haven't been called since then, and I haven't even heard of another one getting brought up. So I think we just gotta, I think the marshals need to step it up a little bit. Obviously, you know, I appreciate them being out there, but they also need to do their job.
Yeah,
yes, especially because this year they put out actual adverts for paid people to be on the cards deliberately doing things. And I wonder sometimes, does Jeff Spring need to be a marshal on a card? Like I think we got to have the marshals and have kind of, there's so many moving parts for what Jeff has to do for these events, and you know, obviously incentivized by things like making sure that the event goes well and that we want this to be presented properly. I think you have to have those dedicated people that, I'm not saying Jeff is biased, but an unbiased person whose sole focus is just to officiate that card. Because like, you're right. We even had lines now on the tee pads to make foot fault calls easier. And there were obvious ones happening.
Yeah, there was some definitely obvious foot faults happening.
So it's like they gave themselves the infrastructure to call foot faults easier, and they just didn't do it. And I wonder, is it like that secondary marshal's like, well, Jeff's here, so he could take care of it. And then Jeff has so many things going on that
I just don't think they're looking. I don't think they're paying attention.
Yeah.
So I think a couple things needs to happen, okay? Because I think there's going to be always an issue in disc golf. So a couple things needs to happen. You either need to have marshals on every card that are willing to make calls, that are coached and trained like basketball officials, NFL officials, hockey officials, where these players or these officials are in the right spot to make the calls. Because that's like, because to your point, Gannon, like Jeff being right next to you, he's not going to be able to see if Ricky's foot faulting or if Ricky steps on the disc or any of that stuff. Like, he's not close enough. So that would be the first thing, is if you want to have a sport that's like overly officiated, you need to have them everywhere. Or the other option, which I think is the best option for disc golf, is you have a couple marshals and they're on scooters or golf carts or whatever they're on, and they're zipping around the course. And whenever someone needs them, they can zip in to make a ruling if that needs to be said. And we need to make rules that are easily that can be easily followed. Because I think right now a lot of the rules are nearly impossible to judge unless you have someone standing over you watching you.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we necessarily want to have happen, right? So I think that's your two options, is you either have to have marshals that are like literally standing over everyone, or change the rules to where certain things aren't going to be an issue, and then we won't have a problem.
Because out of all due respect, players aren't going to call the stuff. We know that's going to happen.
I hate that I got into a argument with a marshal last year about a call, a time call actually, to another player. And I was like, look, man, like, I can call it, but I really can't. Like, I can't be, calling a time violation. You know how stupid that would look? And then, so I went over to the marshal. This was during a round last year. And I was like, are you going to call them? Like, did you see that? He's like, well, you can call it too. I'm like, okay, so you're agreeing with me that you saw the violation, you're paid to be here, and you're not calling it? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think all of us would rather not make a call if someone else, some third party person was there to make it. And the fact that they're not willing to jump in and make it sometimes is a tough look.
Yeah.
It's a tough look. Well, let's talk real quick. Last thing I have for you, Gannon, was the extension. You know, final playoff, you see Ricky dunk his disc into the water. At that point in time, you're thinking, hey, chip, tap in, I win, right? You turn around and you ask Jeff, do I have an extension? Do you think anyone had any idea if you had an extension or not? Like,
No.
is that in the rules anywhere?
I'm pretty sure it is. I thought I saw somewhere it resets if you do enter into a playoff.
Okay, so that does
I
say
wasn't
that
100% sure. Maybe if you want to, Gary or someone can pull it up.
I'm looking at it.
I wasn't
It felt
100%.
like that was just like made up on the fly. Like, we just got to give Gannon an answer and be like, yeah, you got one.
Well, and I kept like being, because like I'm paranoid. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of paranoid. I'm not trying to like, because obviously it was my second shot was a big shot in the playoff, and the footing was terrible. It was all like I was in a sand pile. It was like, and I just wanted to make sure I was doing everything right. It means the biggest shot of the tournament for me.
Sure.
And yeah, I couldn't get an answer if I had an extension or not. I'm like, well, you got to know this. I mean, obviously I should know it as well. So that is a little bit on me. But I also feel like if I do ask a question to an official, like I should probably get an answer.
The icing on the cake would have been if the official took enough time to try to give you an answer and then told you no,
and then like, well, now you're getting
by the way, you went over your time.
Yeah. Got him. That'd be funny.
But I think I mean, at the end of the day, all this stuff really ultimately doesn't really matter, right? But the optics of it does. Like that, at the end of the day, if you want someone to take your sport seriously, it's very challenging to do so when you tell them, like, yeah, people don't really know the rules. And it's kind of like wishy-washy and whatever. And, there are certain sports that have the player, the official error, the human error, right? You all know that when you watch football, some refs are going to get the wrong call. That's the human error. But we all know that going in. With disc golf, a lot of times it feels like things aren't thought of ahead of time. And it feels like unprepared and not professional. And that's, to me, that's the part that I wish I could see less of.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way, Gannon, but that's how it comes across to me.
Yeah, I'd say I feel similar for sure.
Like, why are there not 10 officials on that final playoff hole? Yeah. Like, why are there not spotters all over the place?
Dude, I think the spotter like left the country. I couldn't find him. Like we never found out who the spotter was, bro. Like,
yeah, I don't know if you've seen this picture, Mike. If you're still there, if you can pull up the picture for Gannon and the spotter. This is the. Oh wait, he's gonna show that. All right, this is the only spotter, Gannon. I don't know if you can see that. If you look at the only person in between the water on the far right, that spotter came from like the tree on the right side. He came out when the water hit the ground. He was under that tree. That was the only. Do you see another person out there? I don't see another spotter out there.
No.
I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I don't know.
So like, I don't know how that guy can make that call.
Yeah. Luckily, I think we did get the spot right, but there was definitely a lot of. I mean, there was 150 Ricky fans saying it's here. There was 150 Gannon fans saying it's here, and that's where, like, you heard me say. I said to the crowd, I said, we just need some honesty, because let's put aside who we're rooting for, and let's just get this call right and see how the game plays out.
Hey guys, can we always be honest for a second, please?
No, they're like no.
The pros were doing it too. It wasn't just fans. Like, there were actual pros advocating for both sides as well.
I would have been in the crowd yelling too. I'd be like, "Put him by the basket. We want another hole."
Not that it like. should matter a ton, but a majority of the pros were saying it never crossed. Like it was on, like it was a spot that we put it on, and I remember looking over the pond and I saw some of my friends. I mean, I think I was like Jaden Rye was like, no, dude, no, it definitely did not cross. I'm 100% sure of it. And like, I trust him. Like, I do trust him. Obviously, like, that it shouldn't have a huge influence because it's between like the spotter and the card themselves. But, um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we got the call right, but it was a tense moment for sure.
The part that I struggled with was that 30 seconds where it felt like there's no governance anywhere. And it's just like,
Chaos.
this is such a bad look for our sport right now. Like it delegitimizes what we have. And Jeff talked earlier about how he was talking to the two spotters over there. I almost feel like they should have walked over and met you and Ricky, and
That
all
would have been
five
great.
of you. Yeah,
been
all
great.
five of you should have stood together. And then it's like, okay, we have solidarity that we're all talking about this decision together. But it's like, you guys are having a thing over there. The crowd's going nuts, which I don't mind the crowd because that's the Rome is the mob,
That's
and that's kind of
sports.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we want that to happen, but it just was 30 seconds of chaos.
All right. I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Gary, did you have anything else?
No, I think you covered all the stuff that I want to cover, and there's no reason to go back and rehash earlier stuff.
Gannon, anything for the people? Another impressive victory to add to your belt. You got anything for the people?
Well, I mean, I think I finally wrote down some pet peeves.
Oh, love to hear them. Let's
Ooh.
go.
Let me plug my phone in here. I think I should still be on, right? Am I good?
You went black, but
you can hear me. You can hear me.
You, so it's fine.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. I'm gonna read off a couple. I'm gonna pop back in and out. All right. Here's one of them. When a fan, or it doesn't have to be a fan, or somebody says "good round, man" before you finished hole 18. Like it, like this one. It happened. It's happened to me twice this year already by fans.
That's this course.
By fans, and one was at the Memorial. I was walking down hole 18 at Memorial, and I have like a 30-footer, and the guy's like, "Dude, good round, man," and like in the middle of the fairway, and I step into my putt, and it like spits out, and I'm like, "Bro," and so that was annoying. And then it happened at Olympus this year. This one didn't end up mattering, but it was on my final round. I was on a heater. I was 12 down through 17, and he's like, "Dude, Gannon, like great round, man." I'm like, I still have to get on top of here. Like, I haven't even thrown my second shot yet. And I honestly, after you said that, I'm like, I'm 100% throwing this straight out of bounds. 100%. Luckily, I didn't, but that one gets to me just a little bit.
I'm thinking, Gannon, that these might not be actual fans. These might be plants. I think other pros
you're
giving
equipping people to get in your head now.
Yeah, they're giving $20 to these guys to come up to you and say that.
The next one is bad Sharpies. Like
that's a good one.
Sometimes fans, ask for a signed disc and just hand you the driest, worst Sharpie with a dull point. And it's like, how do you still have the Sharpie? And then like it's awkward for the pro because like you write on the disc and it like barely shows up, and then you're just like, well, I feel bad, but it was also kind of annoying. And yeah, it's just not a good situation. Here's one. I got two more that I have written down so far. One is when they bring either a binder of cards or a stack of discs to sign. I had one guy bring me like 15 discs to sign just for himself, I think. Technically nothing wrong with it, but like if we're being honest, kind of weird. Like think about there's more people in line. And then the cards almost always, especially when I know it's like a more of like a rare card, I feel like, well, this is getting sold immediately. It feels like I'm just being used for money, which I don't know. I just like, to me, I love signing discs genuinely for people that like really are big fans and like excited to see me. But sometimes those interactions feel more like a money grab than anything.
So something that go ahead, Gary.
What if they were bringing you a pack to rip and then said sign the cards?
Oh, I'm cool with that.
So something that happens in other sports, Gannon, is they actually won't sign the card. A lot of players won't sign cards with black Sharpies.
Yeah, I saw that. I've seen that.
So they'll sign them with like orange and blue and different color Sharpies. And it's interesting too, because those a lot of times, because obviously there's a lot of fakes and stuff, those never sell for nearly as much as the cards that actually are like authenticated by
Legit, yeah.
by the company. But I think it might be different than disc golf because there isn't like an authentication. Like if you just signed a card, it'd probably go just as much as someone that ripped a pack and got an auto from your card.
Yeah, I guess like a couple more things. Yeah, one was definitely the last one. I was pretty similar. It's like signing a disc and then immediately seeing it for sale. I'm talking like I've signed discs and then seen them for sale 30 minutes later, and like I said, it just like doesn't feel genuine. Like I don't know. It just like I guess it does happen sometimes in like sports, but like I don't know. When it just doesn't feel. I'm getting trolled right now, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
So I'll say if you have a stack of discs and you want Gannon to sign them, you gotta say like, hey, I work at a church. I'm giving these to an orphanage.
Perfect.
I'm a teacher. I'm a PE coach. You gotta at least come up with a fake story.
This is my
yeah. At least try a fake story. At least try
fake story, and then Gannon will sign them all for you.
Yeah, and then last thing, just about the tournament. I just want to say, got huge respect for Ricky. Enjoy battling with him. I think it makes the sport really exciting, and I think it's great for disc golf. And really respect him as an athlete. And then obviously, just thanks to everybody who came out to watch New Orleans. Definitely put on a great show for them, and they showed out strong. Really good gallery, especially. I mean, a lot of people in the woods watching. It was awesome to see. And I'm excited to see the changes next year and come back. And obviously, shout out my sponsors: Discmania, Squatch, Cardinal Disc Golf, and that's pretty much it.
Ask Sully when he's gonna run his next marathon.
When's the next marathon?
Half Ironman, December 16th.
Half Ironman, December 16th.
Where at?
Florida, in between Tampa and Orlando.
Florida.
What about the next High Rocks?
I just saw my first Ironman.
Tour championships.
Weekend after Tour Championship is his next High Rocks.
Nice.
I can't believe you do that, Sully. I lose a little respect for you for doing that, but it's okay.
Oh,
it's okay.
I can't get behind High Rocks. I'm sorry, I can't. It's just the name. The name's trash. The name, you gotta change the name.
Hybrid Rockstar.
The name is trash. All right, Gannon, appreciate you, brother. You guys a week off, right? Chilling this week.
Yep, chilling at the Tipton house.
Very nice. Well, you guys enjoy yourself. And we'll talk to you, I'm sure, in the next couple weeks.
Hopefully. All right. See you guys.
All right, take it easy. There you have it, guys. Gannon Burr jumping on here. Okay, so a couple things quickly to wrap up here, Gary.
Yep.
Hole 13 to 18 was a crazy stretch.
Yeah.
The final day, there was 26 birdies on those holes. 18 of those birdies came from hole 17.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 9 birdies between hole 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18. 9. Yeah. Crazy stretch. We kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. Luke Taylor really could have put himself in contention if he had a little bit of better C2 putting performance. He ended up putting 1 of 9 from C2 that final round. He also missed a little shorty inside the circle that final round. Mm-hmm. But talk about a kid that is really, really fun to watch throw.
Oh, I mean, sure.
Also, when did he get this big forehand? He throws it so low off the ground. Really, really fun to watch him play. And, he's had a couple tournaments now back to back. Pretty solid performances. He's got to get that putter dialed because you can tell when he loses confidence in it, he kind of just fluffs them up there.
Yeah, we were talking. I did a little interview with him, and he was saying that he's working on focus right now, and that's a big thing for him on the course. And this is the best start he's ever had, and he's tied for 4th before, but solo 4th is his best ever finish. So I expect to see good things from him throughout the season for sure.
Yeah, he's just got to get that putting dialed in. He's right there.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have to say, and maybe I already said it, I don't know. We've been going on for a little bit here. we got to stop cutting to catch cam, guys, in the middle of the throw.
It's not good.
For the love of all spectators, and I'm talking about Jomez too here, Gary. I'm not just talking about live.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jomez too. Let us just see the shot from start to finish, from behind the thrower, or sometimes when they cut to the catch cam, I'm like, that's a sick angle. Show me the shot from that angle from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, just show me the shot from start to finish, because when you jump right in the middle of it, I don't know what gaps they're trying to throw through. I don't know what side of the basket I don't know anything. I'm completely at a loss.
Especially on a new course like that. I mean, you'd have to think. I wonder if there's like any kind of production meeting where they're talking about what they're going to do for a course like this, where there's just not so many defined lines. But I was glad. I think Luke had someone capture his ace from the tee pad, so we got to see the whole shot, which was really, really cool.
Sick.
But like, yeah, the catch cam thing, I think they think it's cool. But one of the most fascinating things about disc golf is the flight of the disc, and to have it cut in half is just not as entertaining.
Maybe we need to get someone from Disc Golf Pro Tour Jomez on here, because I'm trying to understand why they don't try it the other way.
Yeah.
Why not just try it? A couple shots. Just throw a couple shots so we see the full shot. And like, if everyone's like, hey, this sucks, then okay, we at least see it. But like, I don't know. You see all these practice rounds. I feel like the practice rounds that we get from a lot of these players, they have better coverage of the shots.
Yeah.
Because you can actually see them the whole way. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. That's just me. You got anything else? We'll open it up for questions too. So all you guys watching, we almost had 1,000 people here tonight watching. So we appreciate you guys all in the live. If you guys want to start dropping some questions in the chat, we'll pull a couple of them out to answer. But yeah, pick them. I mean, this is getting disgusting. We picked a guy that didn't even play in the tournament, and we still beat them by 22 points. I mean, this is disgusting.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough look on their end. I mean, honestly, I get what they're trying to do, but like riding the hot hand on Taylor Chosick, I'm not sure was the right play this week.
I should have talked you out of Heidi Laney too. She's coming back from an injury. I don't like her on that course either. But like we had a terrible week, and based off of us, I think this week was terrible, and we still beat them by 20.
Oh yeah. Just
that's
Did you hear what their new strategy is that they're going to do? They're going to make picks next week, and then whatever picks they make, they're going to cross them out and make new ones.
Oh,
yeah,
I see. So they're going to go off of like their first instincts. This is who we're going with.
Yep.
And then they're going to be like, nope, we're not picking any of these people.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. No Yules. Yeah, Yuli is feeling under the weather. So no Yules tonight. Let's see here. Why do we have marshals? What is the point? It's a good question. If they're not there to make calls, why have them out there? Great question.
Another fan.
What would be the right length of course to have a good score spread? I don't think necessarily length has too much to do with it. I think a lot of times what needs to be done is great shots give you great opportunities to birdie. Good shots give you good opportunities to par and maybe an opportunity to birdie. Bad shots, you're now struggling to get a par. And terrible shots, you have no chance to get a par. I think you need to have that. And some of these courses we see, we're talking with it Gannon earlier, if you throw a bad enough shot, sometimes ends up being good. And I just don't think we necessarily want to see that.
Did you hear Macbeth's opinion on like if it's a par 4 that 2 good shots you should be getting par, a good shot and a great shot or vice versa should give you a chance at like maybe a long birdie look, and 2 great shots should give you like a tap in or very, very short birdie look. And that's kind of how he was approaching the 2-shot mentality. Because I think we look often too much at the percentage spread on a hole, and like we treat that as like the everything. But I agree with you. It's more about the feel of like what is required for the hole that matters.
Yep, exactly. Let's see here. Brody, when will you be playing? I'll fly there and buy platinum. Not playing, brother. I'm donezo. But I appreciate the support. I will be doing stuff with Foundation Disc Golf. That's if I'm playing disc golf, it's gonna be with Foundation. Why are we still having players be the judges of rules? That's just currently what disc golf is. Is a forehand roller a good shot? I guess it depends on what you mean by good shot. I think it sometimes can be the right shot, and I think you can have a good forehand roller shot. If a hole is requiring you to throw a forehand roller off the tee, I think that's a bad hole.
Yep.
And that's people just trying to break it.
Don't get Brody started on forehand rollers off the tee.
Okay. I think we'll answer one more question. So someone throw one more good question in the chat, and then we'll call it a night. Oh, there's a good one. More wins this year, Ricky or AB?
Ooh. It's hard to deny how like solid of a start Ricky's having right now and how not solid of a start AB's having, because I think Edwin did some stats for us that talked about like hot starts and cold finishes and how AB is historically one of the hottest starting players every year, and then he finishes cold. So it's kind of tough to see two events and really nowhere to be found. So I'm going to put AB on watch with that one for sure, and I think that Ricky's the person right now.
Yeah, I think Ricky's probably the clear winner there. I if you go back and kind of look at his past several years and really all the way up until his entire career up until this point, he's not a guy that all of a sudden he's getting 14th, 18th, 20th. Like he is in the mix quite often. Now, is he winning? We've seen in the past that he's gone on some streaks of where he can't win. But like he gives himself a lot of chances. And so if he's already won, he almost won this one if it wasn't for a missed short putt and a couple other ones.
And I like him at the next few events too. Like he's going to be great in Charlotte, I think, and he's going to be fine at Champions Cup at New London. So like the events stack up really well for him going forward.
What's the softest excuse you've heard after a bad round? Okay. Mike wants me to answer this one. Or Garrett, you too, because you might have heard some AMs say some stuff.
Oh, AMs say the wildest stuff.
They probably have more soft stuff than pros do.
Some of my favorite is, but I shot eight under on the practice round yesterday. Like
that's good. That's good. Gosh, it's been so you're asking someone that has terrible memory. But yeah, there was I think it's just golf, because I think you hear a lot of times in golf too. So I think the nature of just the sport, whether it's golf or disc golf, people love making excuses all the time. I mean, I've heard people talk about how, they've played the course blind.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that was your decision to do that. So
I'm always excited. Next weekend this weekend I'm TDing my first like solo TD experience event. I'm always excited to hear the DNF excuses. My first round didn't go so great, but like all of a sudden I have a tummy ache.
Yeah. I think also like stating that how much you haven't practiced is another one. I think it's similar to like the people being like, I'm running a marathon without any training.
Yeah. I didn't have enough practice or warm up time when like you decided when to leave your house.
Yeah. So, all right, boys. Great show tonight. Shout out to both our guests, Jeff Spring, which I'm sure he probably didn't want to have that conversation about all that stuff, but it's always awesome to have him come on and give his perspective of what went down. And hopefully we can see some changes in the future because like outside of those couple things, I mean, this was a great event. I think it was run really well, and it was really, really fun to watch. So Good stuff there. And then obviously Gannon jumping on with a little surprise appearance from Sully there as well. So thanks to all of our guests tonight. Hoping to be back next week with a full cast. Yuli next week as well. Maybe King of the Hill debuts next week. So we'll see what Gary has whipped up for us. And until then, I hope you guys are all well, and we'll see you next time.